Hey, Kelsey, Norm MacDonald here. So, you have a podcast, huh? Fantastic. You know what I always say? You know what the world needs more of? Podcasts.
Live from the Screwball Whiskey Studios, The Kelsey Hudgins Show.
Yeah, hey, live from the Screwball Whiskey Studios, indeed, man. I hope I got that right. I'm just kind of blind doing this nonsense here because, long story. Yeah, live from the Screwball Whiskey Studios, SKREWBallWhiskey.com. Tomorrow's stories begin right here. Hashtag get screwed, hashtag screw it forward. All of the peanut butter whiskeys are posers. Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey is the one and only original peanut butter whiskey. Go get yourself a couple of bottles. You'll wish you had two if you only get one. And as always, drink Screwball Whiskey responsibly. I'm always reminding you to do that. So anyway, hey, how are you? It's been a while. Where have you been? Just kidding. Where have I been? Goodness gracious. We're going to get all into that in this episode. And first off, I owe you all an apology. I realized something about myself yesterday. So I used to use this podcast when I would need to vent, when I would need to get something off of my chest. What's up, Chris Cornelius in the house? Oh, is music still playing over me? Thank you for telling me that. I'm sure it's loud and obnoxious and such. Let's do this nice little blind fade and see how that goes. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, so I owe you all an apology, and that is because I did use this podcast for a really long time to vent, to just get shit off of my chest, stuff that I couldn't say in public or to people or whatever have you. Yeah, sorry about that. What's up, Bill Dog? Hell yeah, dude. Bill Dog in the house. But anyway, what's crazy about what I use the podcast for is that I needed a release, and I didn't have one for myself. I had no way to release I don't believe in like traditional therapy. I used to want to be a therapist when I was younger, and I did a lot of studying into that. But then I just don't want to have to rely on that kind of thing. So I wanted to get inside my own head, like handle this shit on my own, basically. And sorry, I'm trying not to clear my throat so much. I remember the old podcast rules. I did a lot of these fucking things, man. I did a lot of episodes. I did so much. I have so many episodes still that are out there on this YouTube channel. If you guys want to go back and dig on a few old episodes, but I want to get back to my apology. I apologize for leaving you guys hanging. And for you guys, I don't mean the ones that are watching right now. Some of you that are watching right now, for sure. Bill Dog was there in the beginning of me doing a lot of the stream stuff, very early on at least. And I kind of just walked away from streaming, and I owe an explanation for that, which I may have given before, but I owe a better explanation now for sure. And that is that I found a different release outside of the podcast. What I used the podcast for when I spoke by myself, was just getting inside my own head and bouncing off of my own, skull walls and shit, trying to get to the bottom of my issues. But then I joined the Kill Tony Discord at killdiscord.com, which you can still join, and it's still the greatest online community that has ever existed. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep doing that the whole time, and I apologize for that. So once I started in the Kill Tony Discord and started hanging out in the voice chat there, I started bouncing my problems off of the people in that chat. And it got to the point to where I was talking to them and not going live on YouTube, talking to my YouTube chat. So I missed out a lot on communicating with the folks that followed me on YouTube for a really long time. And I had just a core group of a couple dozen people that were there every time. Soupy gets it. Soupy remembers. Soupy, the great James Campbell here, he gets it. He remembers the original days of the Kill Tony voice chat. And that's what we all did. We used it for therapy. And we would talk to each other, and we would help each other with our problems, and we would get to the bottom of shit in our lives. And it was wonderful. But, a couple weeks go by, a couple months go by, and then a year goes by, and I realize, man, I've stopped releasing podcasts. I've stopped releasing content. I've stopped connecting with my online family, my original online family, which was my Discord, my YouTube community before I started doing the Discord stuff. And, man, I just, by that point, I would just release content and be like, oh yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm just hanging out with other people online. I'm sorry. What can you do? And I wasn't as, I don't think it was as kind of a explanation as I believe would have been necessary. And another thing is that after I started hanging out with, thank you, Bill Dog. I appreciate that. After hanging out with the Kill Discord community for a while, I started to get better. I used this podcast as a way to help myself through problems that I had that started after I quit drinking. I don't know if a lot of you guys who will hear this that have listened to a lot of the old episodes and a lot of the original episodes of this podcast. And even when I started, and I've just started up, GG, what's up, dog? I didn't see your comment sneak in there above Bill Dog. So like the thing that shit, I lost my place where I was talking because I realized I ignored Gigi. I'm sorry, dude. And I'm kind of stoned, which is never going to change. But I think I was saying something along the lines of I got better. I started getting better. I started not needing to vent so much about my depression and my mental health or whatever have you, if you will. So I used this. Oh, I remember where I was at. Sorry. So if any of you guys remember, some of the first podcasts I ever released were a podcast called The Sunset Grill. And there was some issues that came along the way with, and I've voiced these things to my co-host from back then, that, you know, I had some shit going on in my own world at that time, and I was not doing well financially, and I needed to like cut back on spending in a huge way, and there was some reoccurring charges from having that podcast uploaded to everything that started sending my bank account into the negative, and I was getting charged like $36 every time I had a charge come through. And by the way, when they charge you the $36 and they charge you $36 for having a non-sufficient fund paid, but then they send the money, they send that payment and then take it back. So they unsend the payment to the place where they paid it, but they still charge you the overdraft. I don't think that's right, but that's beside the point. Anyway, there were some charges with that through the upload site that I'd used at the time, and I just couldn't afford it anymore. So I went down to the basic version of it so that we would have our latest episode still available, and then it would have to remove pretty much everything else to get under the allotted amount of space necessary or available for upload with the basic membership. Are you with me? Good. I know that was a lot right there, and I apologize. So anyway, remove those. It removed those episodes, but I'm in the process of re-uploading them now. But I've unfortunately lost a couple of those episodes somehow. But I'm re-uploading the original 10. The point being is that after I quit drinking, which I am on the cusp of the 6-year anniversary of that coming up in a couple of weeks, and I use the podcast as because I'm an addict. I'm addicted to everything that I do, and I always will be. That's my personality. So I found that since I can't, quit being that type of person, the best thing I can do is that I can turn my addiction to something that will be good for me. And man, the podcast became that. And I started doing the podcast about a year after I quit drinking. And ironically enough, after I started doing the podcast, I quit doing cocaine, which I quit doing cocaine about a year after I quit drinking. So a couple of the episodes of the Sunset Grill podcast, I was still, every other word I would say, you would hear me in the background. And I even edited out a lot of those, unless it was just obvious in the middle of what I was saying, but it was all the time. So anyway, a couple of those episodes have that me in there. And the funny thing is that my addiction changed to the podcasts, and then from there it was done. From there on out, it was just, straight towards podcast all the way down that road as hard as I could go. And I started doing the MI Stuff podcast, which was the Merle's Inlet Stuff podcast, and it was just for people, my friends back home, and it was just stuff that we would talk about. I would do an episode about it, and then it started becoming that, this noteworthy thing happened in the news, I'm going to talk about this. And I was a huge Rogan head. I loved Joe Rogan, and this story is going to get so much crazier. I loved Joe Rogan, and I like every time he went live on YouTube back then, the powerful JRE went live, I would click it. I didn't care who it was. Immediately, I would just consume so much of this content, and I started doing kind of what he was doing. I started following his lead. And it was like he like unashamedly had his opinions and believed what he believed and would say it and not care, like just to say how he felt. And I was envious of that, and I was like, man, I feel passionately about a lot of things, so I think I'm going to start doing the same thing. So I did. And I started talking about the world and giving my opinions and weighing in on important things. And then people started to say, hey, I listened to your podcast the other day. Man, I agree with that. That was people that I didn't know started to come up to me and say, are you the guy from the podcast? Are you guy from My Stuff podcast? Like, and people started to approach me in real life and say like, oh man, I saw that, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't agree with it, but here's why. And I would always put it in a way to where people could disagree with me without starting an argument or a fallout or whatever have you. And that was intoxicating to me. You know, it was like a drug, and I loved it. And so I ended up doing that consistently and bringing on my friends and interviewing them about shit going on in the world. And that was a regular thing. And I continued to do that for, I think, 180, 190 something regular episodes, with a couple of dozen sports talk episodes thrown in there as well. So over 200 episodes of that podcast. I numbered the sports ones differently, just like Joe started numbering his MMA podcast differently. So I kind of modeled that after him. And man, this story is going to get so much crazier. Yeah, if you haven't heard from me in a while, this story gets so crazy. I'm catching you guys up from there to now, by the way, in the most condensed version that I can possibly muster at this point. So, long story short, I'd become reliant on this podcast to feed my addiction, my addictive personality, if you will. And it did a very good job for a very long time. And then I got into the Discord, the Kill Tony Discord, and started hanging out in the voice chat there. This one is a doozy. Nick knows. It's good to see you, by the way, brother Nick. Here's the catch up that we've been talking about for so long. We're going to catch up now. I got into the Kill Tony Discord, and I started talking to the people in the voice chat there, and I kind of neglected the podcast. Halfway through the interview section, like interviewing my friends and stuff, I would do streams by myself just like this, where I would just talk. But back then, nobody was watching live, so I couldn't connect to my friends Chris Cornelius or Bill Dog or Gigi or Nick here in the chat, or Soupy and everyone else who's here right now. I couldn't connect to you guys in the chat. I had nobody listening. I was just talking at a picture of myself. I was speaking to my reflection, you know, like just watching myself and hear myself say things. And I would just talk, and nobody was there to listen. So it was literally just my brain going off. And I would say things and be like, wow, I said that must be how I feel. Like, is that real? That's a thing? Wow. I did not know that about myself. I had so many aha moments. And I encourage you guys, if you want to be a weirdo and just get into the depths of who I am and was, go back and listen to some of those old solo talks of just me figuring out how to do this thing. So long story short, I jumped into the Kill Tony Discord, started talking to those folks, and they were all like, what's the MI stuff? What does that mean? MI stuff? That makes no sense. And I was explaining to them, well, I'm from Merle's Inlet. It's Merle's Inlet stuff. It was initially about this, and I've got too many episodes to like go and change it. And then I still would hear, yeah, well, the name doesn't make sense, to be honest. So if you want to reach people that are outside of your little circle there, you might want to change the name. And I did. So I changed it to the Kelsey Hudgins Show. My name won't change. It'll always be Kelsey Hudgins. So I thought. My name won't change. I'll always be Kelsey. So yeah, let's call it the Kelsey Hudgins Show. And then after I changed the name, I did a few episodes, interviewed a few people from my favorite podcast of all time, Kill Tony. Got to interview the great and powerful Joel Jimenez. I got Ryan J. Ebelt. I interviewed the great and powerful Michael Lair. And it all got crazy from there because people that I was fans of, started following me on Instagram and liking my posts and communicating with me and like showing me like attention, and like we can all say whatever we want, but we all are fans of positive attention. We all like people to be nice to us and to be kind to us and to just show that they care a little bit. Everybody wants that, right? Am I crazy? But either way, everybody wants that. And I started to get the positive energy from them and positive interactions. And man, it was just a cool moment in my life where I was like, dude, this is pretty awesome. I could do this podcast thing and interview folks for a while. I'm pretty decent at it. I could probably go far with this if I keep up with it. But I didn't. I did a few episodes here and there. And then, I was playing gigs 5-6 nights a week in Myrtle Beach and just got tired. I didn't feel like it. I didn't have the energy, and I started to get angry after I did that for a while. I just started to get ill and just unpleasant. And I started taking that out on people in my life. And I started to not care about things that I once cared about. And I started to hate the thing I was passionate about. I started to hate music. And then I started to just not care about the podcast. And then people would still come up to me all the time, man, like, hey, man, how's the podcast going? And I was like, yeah, man, I was listening the other day, man. It's good shit you got. And these are people who think that I do it every week. And I realized that they were just telling me they weren't listening to it. It was downloading in the background, so I was getting counted with the play because it was downloaded on their apps. But they weren't listening to it because I hadn't released a podcast in months. And they were coming up and saying, yeah, man, I was listening to you the other day. And I was like, man, well, so then I got even more kind of depressed about it. I started getting in my own head and all of this normal nonsense. What up, Louis Lido? Call me Ryan. Good to see you, buddy. Throwback names in here, man. It's really good to see you guys, by the way. I'm once again, I'm sorry I kind of bailed, without saying anything more formal, but it's really good to see you guys. But man, just falling back into my like sadness and depression and thinking, oh, well, I thought I had the solution, but I didn't. When the whole time I'm like, the thing that made me better was my podcast to start with. That was the original thing that made me feel better. Made me get shit off of my chest I needed to get off of my chest. And I had kind of turned my back on it. And I don't even think at this point I'd realized what I had done. I think I was just had all this misplaced angst within me that I wasn't releasing through the podcast anymore, so it was going other places in my life, you know, and started to feel weird mentally, having crazy thoughts, and just didn't know what to do about them, and I don't know. Long story short, those moments and those weird thoughts would only happen every now and again for shorter amounts of time every time. So I was like, okay, once I get one of these feelings, I know it's not going to last forever. I just have to stick it out for a day or two. And then it became, well, I just have to stick it out for the rest of the night. When I wake up in the morning, I'll be good. And now it's just, well, I just have to deal with this for a few minutes. Like, I'll be fine. I'm just going to have a few minutes of weird thoughts. Anyway, just get through this. And not thinking I had the solution there the whole time. But I did. And after which point, I started getting tired and just fed up. And then the pandemic happened. And I say this with absolute surety. There is nothing in my life that has affected me positively in the way that the pandemic did. And I mean that wholeheartedly. The pandemic was easily the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. It gave me the time off that I needed. I took 6 weeks off when the pandemic started. I could have gone back to work 2 weeks later, but I needed more time. So I took a month and a half off, and I rested. And it was so good for my soul. I started enjoying things again because I deprived myself of, it's like, you know, when you eat too much chocolate and your belly hurts. And then it's like the thought of chocolate just pisses you off. But I had just gorged myself on playing music and just being on stage. You know, just I had gorged myself on it too much to where I needed that release. I needed a break. And the pandemic gave me that. But the pandemic also gave me something that I didn't expect to affect me the way that it did in the long run. Was my friend Thek, the great and powerful Thecky, the Kai from Virtual Red Band, as you know him now, started playing Virtual Red Band. Virtual Red Band was a thing that Brian Redband did over the pandemic, where he was just streaming in his VR headset. You guys know what it is because of it being a thing now, but it was new back then. So a few episodes in, they were like, you know, you can get in there and you can hang out with him. And Thek and Switchy helped me figure out how to do that. And I was like, well, I could transform my Mac to a PC to do this, which impressed Brian Redband to start with, that I was able to pull that off to run VR chat on a Mac. So that sort of gave me a little relationship online with one of my heroes, Brian Redband. And I'm forever grateful for that, because without Thek helping me out with that, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now. So it's 100% like he is to thank for hooking me up with that, and I appreciate him for doing that. And also, after a while, my Mac showed to not hold the capabilities of streaming properly and running all the programs that I would need. So they literally raised and donated money for me. Like they paid for basically more than a third of a computer build, walked me through how to build it. And it is the computer that I use now to do everything, the PC that I use now. And I mean, I'm like 100% giving them the credit for like helping me out with that. And they will be repaid one way or the other for sure. One day when I'm able to do something great, I will. But yeah. So they hooked me up with the ability to do that and to connect with Redband on the way that I have now. And then fast forward to a few months, and I'm basically a regular on Virtual Redband, part of the cast, and I get to tell people who don't know about Kill Tony, people back home, people in Myrtle's Inlet and Myrtle Beach, they don't get comedy kind of like I do. Some of them do, but not everybody is into the kind of stuff that I'm into. So, and Virtual Redband is a great thing. Just like Redband says, it's good to put on in the background. It's good. It's like a morning radio thing, and it's really cool. But people back home, they didn't know anything about comedy, so the one name that everybody knows is Joe Rogan. And of course, everybody knows Redband started the JRE, and every other podcast that you love, he's responsible for. But people were asking, what you been doing lately? I hadn't seen you doing the podcast now. I see you doing like video game stuff now. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of part of this little crew that runs around in virtual reality, and we just like fuck with people in their natural habitats and just like wreak havoc with each other. And it's kind of fun. And they're like, who are you doing that with? I'm like, well, Brian Redband. Well, who's that? Well, he's the co-creator of the Joe Rogan Experience. Oh, Joe Rogan. Wow. The faces would light up. And I'd be like, yeah. So anyway, I was proud of that. And I told people about that, I'm very proud of that. So after a while of doing that, Redman started to mention to me, hey, man, you should come to Austin. Well, you know what? I got a little ahead of myself because they were still in LA at this point. They were doing virtual Kill Tonys. They were recording a shitload of them and then releasing them. And we would have watch parties in VR chat because the pandemic, everything was shut down in LA. So then there started to be rumors that everybody might move to Austin. So I had already had the thought, what if I moved to LA? Redband had already put a little bug in my ear, dude. Like, if you come out here, we'll take care of it. You come out here, dude, you'll be good, dude. Just get out here. So I was like, man, maybe I will go to LA. Like, that'd be cool. But then after a while, they started to notice, well, it's going to be a while before California's going to be on board with letting people go back into live rooms and watch comedy podcasts and whatnot. So Joe Rogan moved to Texas. Joe Rogan moved to Austin. He was the first one to say, yeah, I'm going to move to Texas. I'm going to move to Austin. Shortly after, Tony says, yeah, I'm moving to Austin. And then Redband says he's also moving to Austin. So literally in my mind, it was like, man, just meet me halfway. Like, if you don't want to go all the way to LA, just meet me halfway. They moved halfway closer to me. And I thought, man, that seems coincidental. I know a lot of other people probably in New York or the East Coast period had thought the same thing, who were big Kill Tony heads. They were like, oh, man, I could move there and just be closer to the podcast that I love or the people that I look up to. So anyway, I get that thought, and I'm like, man, what if I did that? Could I walk away from this? Rewind to everyone who has listened to hours and hours of content from me and know me through the Discord know I am a homebody. My entire day consists of waking up, taking as much time as I need to fully wake up, and then I walk out of my room or my door and I go out into the world to do my gig, whatever my gig is, work, show, whatever the thing is I do for that day. And then I come straight back home, and I'm absolutely a recluse. I don't really communicate with a lot of people in person. Not really my thing. Hasn't really been my thing. So that is a thing that's worth noting for the rest of this story. So I was like, can I get away from this thing that I do every day, this routine that I'm so comfortable with? I make good money. I don't have to worry about my rent. Like, I'm going to make enough to pay my rent. Like, my landlords are great. They love me. I'm in the most convenient location. And man, the place that I lived in was a desirable spot. It was incredible. People have come and stayed with me before, dude. Like, they know the spot that I was in was awesome for the amount that I paid for it a month. It was incredible. And I was like, man, can I afford to walk away from this? Is it worth it? And then just a month or two goes by. I think about it. I'm like, you know what? I really think that I'm just going to finish out this year of gigs. I think I might just do another season of gigs and move out there. And I was like, fuck it. So, love you too, Juby. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. The craziest part of this story haven't happened yet. I'll tell you when we're going to level up the amount of crazy this story is going to get. So I have never been on an airplane before. Had never been on an airplane before until Dave Serra was going to have his birthday here in Austin. He wanted to come and go to Kill Tony in Austin. It was like their second or third live show that they had done here at that shit show that shall not be named over on 5th Street. And it's actually not a bad spot. I just say that because they didn't stand with Kill Tony after the whole attempt to cancel thing first came out. So we went there, and I went to rent a car. They said, you can't rent a car. You can't drive further than blah, blah, blah out of the state. And I was like, well, shit. So they wouldn't let me drive the car, and I was like, well, fuck, I can't go. My brother Kerry says, I'm going to buy you a plane ticket. And I was like, no, I've never been on a plane before. I'm terrified. I don't know. He's like, I'm going to buy you a plane ticket right now. I'm going to send you how much it is. You can send me a Venmo. I will take care of your ticket. And I reluctantly said, okay, I'll do it. Never been on a plane before, was terrified. So he literally the night before bought me the ticket. And I got on this airplane. I flew to Austin, and I went to the secret show. I met Red Band. met a lot of other folks, and I met a lot of other people that were really, really cool. I got to meet Jason Rouse that first time, I think, in January when I came out. I believe he was here. But yeah, I just went to the show, got to be there for the whole weekend, and here for the whole weekend, and was like, man, that was pretty cool. So I came back home, and I called my parents, called my dad, my stepmom, and I was like, I think that I could live there. I think I could live in Austin. So I got pulled out of the bucket when I went to Kill Tony in January, and Red Band said something crazy like, oh man, wouldn't this guy be great? He's a great new regular. And Tony was like, oh, just because the guy sings Golden Girls, I want to talk to this guy every week. And it was just a funny moment. But I was sitting there, I was like, man, like, there's no way that will ever happen. And it was very nice of him to say, he's like, what if you moved to Austin? And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of splitting my winters, coming here for the winter and going back to Myrtle Beach for the summer to play gigs. I got a pretty good, deal out there, pretty good career for myself that I shouldn't walk away from. And they were like, yeah, okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. Nothing, like, go on about my life, get back home, and I call my parents, and I was like, I think I've got a pretty cool opportunity to make something real of myself if I go and live in Austin. If I go out to Austin, I think I could really do something serious with my life that I've been working for a long time. And I said, if I could, would you guys be willing to, like, let me borrow a certain sum of money to just get me there and pay my rent in this place here so that I could keep my place here so I would have somewhere to come back to if I needed to? And without thinking, they said yes, they would help me 100%. I didn't ask for a lot. I never asked my parents for a lot. My grandmother took very good care of me while she was alive, and better care of me than she should have, to be honest. So I didn't want to take advantage of my parents' dollars and shit like that. So I never asked for anything until then, really. And man, it was just the support that I got from them kind of was like, man, then I really could do it, huh? I could really do this. So the next time I go out, the next time I go out there was, I think, in April. And I'm pretty sure that was for Kill Tony 500, if I'm not mistaken. And Red Band said he'd give me a spot on the secret show, and they would let me come and hang out with him for Kill Tony 500. It was like a big Kill Tony family reunion, honestly. And I was honored to have been invited. But that weekend, I met Tony in person for the first time, really. Like, I'd seen them on stage, but then the next time, like, it was literally, I think, just a couple of weeks later. It might have even been before then, because April was 500, I think. And I came another time in, like, the end of June or the middle of June. I can't remember which one it was. Either way, I came back by myself twice. So I flew here 3 times in the first couple of months, decided I was going to move here, and got together with a few guys from the Discord, And I can't go any further in this without saying that my best friend, Mumford Davis, my roommate, my fucking best friend, came out here. He said, I want to go to Austin. I can't stand not being there anymore. He came out here and had no plans. He had rented a room from somebody in like a hostel type situation, which was basically just a bed with a bunch of other people. And like, I was like, when I saw him do it, and he was out here living it, saying, I saw this person tonight, this happened tonight. Like, I was talking and hanging out with this person, and like, they said they knew you online. Like, it was just, he was talking to a lot of the people that I knew on the internet, and I thought, man, I know them. I could be there. That made it real for me. Him being here made it real for me. So I was like, well, I'm 100% doing this. And we all got to talking. I told him, I was like, man, I know you got a house situation and whatever, but if we all get together, get 3 or 4 guys that we know and trust, we could get a really sick house. Like, maybe we won't be able to afford it downtown, little out of the way. If we get it a little bit further from downtown, we could literally have like a bonkers house that everybody could come and hang out at, and it would be so cheap for each of us. Like, we would all be saving money to live in a nicer place. Like, just trust me, that's worth it. And they were all like, cool. There, we got 4 of us, me, Mumford, JP, and Gnarly Parker. And we got together and found a place. JP did a lot of the legwork on helping us find a place. And forever indebted to him and Gnarly Parker for getting together and going and visiting these places, them in Mumford, because I wasn't here yet. You know, and JP got here a couple weeks before I did. So we finally found a spot, signed the lease together, and ended up getting out here and moving out here. And this whole time, I was just communicating with Red Band and Tony online, and more so Red Band for sure, because Red Band's an online guy. Tony is more of an in-person guy, which I've learned now. So this is where the story gets crazier. Now, I jokingly say this a lot, but I'm not 100% sure that any of this is happening. I'm almost sure that I'm going to wake up one day back in my apartment in Murrells Inlet, and this would have all just been a long, elaborate dream that I had. But when I moved here, started going to the Kill Tonys, started hanging out with everybody. And I should also mention that I hit a deer 30 minutes after I pulled out of my house. I cleaned out my apartment, loaded everything into a trailer for my dad to come and pick up. He came and picked up the trailer while I was at my final gig and took it back to Bennettsville, trailer full of my shit. And then the next morning, later that night, actually, I got home, cleaned out the rest of my shit, put everything that I could fit in my car, and just left everything else in my apartment that my landlord could use for whenever they set it up for the Airbnb or whatever they were going to do with it. And put my key under the mat, got on the road, and 30 minutes after leaving my house, I hit a deer. So that was a thing. I was like, shit, dude, I'm never going to get to Texas. I'm never going to make it to Texas at this rate. So I hit a deer. First time I've done that in almost 20 years of driving. And it's pretty crazy timing, but I get out. I realize that the fender is on the tire. It hasn't cut too deep into the tread. So I didn't have any gloves. I put socks on my hands, and I just snatched the fender off of the tire best I can and drive it to my parents' house in Bennettsville. And next morning we get up. My dad says, I got a plan. We're going to take everything that you got in your car. We're going to put it in my truck and fit it into the trailer, everything that you need. And then I'm going to take you with me. You'll ride with me to Alabama. I've heard that's good luck in Bangladesh, Nick. By the way, thank you for you're a good one. You know that? You're a good comedic relief in a time when I need it. Thank you. You're a good one. He said, I'm going to take you. You're going to ride with me to Alabama. I've got a truck there that you can drive to Texas. You can follow me in that truck to Texas. You can drive that until you get you a new vehicle. So I was like, cool. Awesome. Problem solved. My dad is the absolute MVP in this situation because I wouldn't have made it here if it weren't for him. He literally picked up my shit in a trailer from the beach, took it back to Bennettsville. Then the next morning we drove. He pulled the trailer and I rode with him from Bennettsville all the way to Alabama. And we got to the lake house, picked up the truck. The next morning, we got like just a few hours of sleep. The next morning, drove the rest of the way to Texas, and my dad got like 4 hours of sleep after getting here, and then drove back to Alabama, dropped off is his buddy Max, dropped off Max, and got another couple hours of sleep in the lake house, and then drove back to Bennettsville. So he drove like literally 40 plus hours in the matter of like 2.5 days, basically. So he's the MVP of this whole situation. Anyway, back to the crazy story. Got here, man, the house is perfect. Like it's just, it was exactly what I had envisioned. And, I fell in love with this place so fast, and I just started hanging around and started just basically being there. And, Tony hangs out in real life. As I was saying earlier, he's not much of an internet guy. So he was talking about me, and I heard my name, and I looked over at him, and I saw that he was having a conversation about me and pointing at me, obviously talking about me. So I walked over there, and he was talking to the manager of the Vulcan. He was talking to Cam, and I found out that my best friend Mumford Davis had mentioned that Cam should give me a job. And I imagine that Cam had maybe asked Tony who I was, and Tony was letting him know. So I still hadn't really accepted the fact that, like, Tony knew who I was and was explaining that to somebody else because, dude, like, I don't want to sound corny about this, but, dude, these people are my heroes, you know, like, Tony's he's a fucking hero of mine, you know, along with everybody else that I've got these weird friendships with now, like relationships with, like him and Red Band. And not to get ahead in the story because it's getting crazier, but he pretty much offers me a job. Cam pretty much offers me a job, and I said, absolutely, I'll be there tomorrow, you know, whatever. So that was pretty quick. I always wanted to be a door guy at a comedy club. It's a pretty coveted job. Robin Williams, Sam Kinison, Jim Carrey, Tony Hinchcliffe, just so many greats. David Lucas, Derek Poston. So many greats were door guys. Hassan Ahmad. People just were door guys at the Comedy Store. And I don't care what anybody says, the Vulcan Gas Company is the new Comedy Store right now. It's the number one live comedy club in the world, if you ask me. But I always wanted to be one of those. So now I am. And Ari Shaffir, dude, Ari and Tony did a great Skeptic Tank the other day where they talked about being door guys. You guys should totally listen to that. It's like a couple episodes ago on the Skeptic Tank. But it's pretty incredible. You guys should go check it out. But so fast forward to a couple of weeks later, and I'm going to Skankfest with everybody, and I'm kind of like accepted among all the comedians and shit. Before Skankfest, I get pulled out of the bucket on Kill Tony. Shortly after I move there, I have a fucking good minute and a good interview, and it all goes well. And I was very happy with how all that shit went. So I was riding that high, going into Skankfest, got pulled at Skankfest. Ari and Doug Stanhope were the guests. That episode has not been released yet because a lot of weird shit happened in it. I don't know if we'll ever see it. Who knows? But the minute went great. The interview, is Ari the most canceled? Maybe. I think Joe is the most canceled right now. But I had a killer minute that in front of a Skankfest crowd. The interview went not as good as I would have wanted it to go, but still, Ari Shaffir and Doug Stanhope have now seen my face, heard my comedy, given me compliments on things. So this is like the first crazy thing that fucking happens. And then later in the night, I see Ari as he's walking back to his hotel, and I was like, just good shit, dude. And he's looking down at his phone. He looks up, sees who I am, and looks back down at his phone and says, good job. And just keeps walking. Like, just says the most casual good job. But, dude, coming from Ari, that meant so much. Just I know who you are and good job. That meant so much to me. And then I went back around the corner where I was walking to, and Stanhope was standing there with Tony and Red Band. And I walk up to him just like I'm a fucking part of the circle now. And then in the middle of the conversation they're having, Doug just looks at me and starts talking to me within the conversation. And he's like, right? I don't understand, right? And it was I can't remember the exact context of the conversation. But he was like, I was like, yeah, dude, I'm with you, dude. And then he looked at me for a second silently and was like, Kill Tony, right? And I was like, yes. I mean, Doug remembered me from Kill Tony, and I told him about a bit of his that I loved that was ancient. And it was like the first bit that I remember telling like my friends and shit. Like the first cool comedian's bit that I ever remembered was that one. And pretty much like a you're my fucking hero moment because I had to say it. And it went over well. I had a good exchange with them. So now, if we're keeping count, not only have I met my heroes, Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redband, but I got to do a minute in front of Ari Shaffir and Doug Stanhope. And now both of those people know who I am, and they see me when they come to the Vulcan. And Doug hasn't been yet. Ari's been a few times. But they see me when I come to the Vulcan, and they just know they know my face, and that means a lot to me. So fast forward to where now I am just I've played some music, I've done some karaoke songs, in front of Tony. He has seen me play music now, and he starts saying a lot of really, really nice things about me to other people. And he told me, yeah, I was talking about you the other night in the green room with Joe and everybody, because Tony does all of Rogan's shows. Anyway, he says, well, I was talking about you the other day in the green room with Joe, and I don't think anything of it. I mean, it's not entirely true. I think a lot of it at the moment, but I don't think as far as like, oh, well, you know, that's cool. So now Joe Rogan knows who I am, I guess. Like, that's pretty neat. He's literally my fucking hero of heroes. Like, I've wanted to, like, I've modeled myself after his example in a way of just being straightforward and steadfast in my beliefs, but also being cool enough to say if you're wrong about something or if you're incorrect, or to not be so proud to not be able to be corrected. Thank you so much, Keith, by the way. I appreciate your support online as well. You're also, man, you're a good one, dude. Real one. I appreciate you. So like I said, like I'm pretty excited about this stuff, but I don't think that it's going to like do any great thing for me at that point. But I just keep being there. I keep hanging out. I keep being just part of the conversations, and then I start listening, and I'm telling Tony what I'm going to go do, and he's like, "No, you shouldn't do that. You should come do this instead because we're going to go here." So I went to do this thing with them, and then this song, I never met a girl like you before. You remember that song? Edwin Collin did this song, and I have this thing that I do when I hear a song. I'll hear it and like a song I recognize, and I'll just spew off facts that I know about this song, because I'm autistic almost when it comes to how I listen to music, and I study things. And Edwin Collin came on. I was like, this song in popular 1994 movie Empire Records. And as soon as I said Empire Records, Adam Egget was standing next to me, and I didn't realize it. He just popped his head around and was like, "Oh, Empire Records. You like, you know, this guy was also in another band." Just we went into this long conversation, and the other guys I was talking to kind of like whimpered away. And as I was just standing there talking to Adam Egget, who everybody knows Norm was my favorite comedian of all time, and like was deeply affected by his death. And next thing you know, and then now I'm standing here having a conversation with the great and powerful Adam Egget, who we all know is famous for jerking off men for $5 a man under the Queensboro Bridge. And I'm having a conversation with him about music. And then a couple weeks go by, and the next time I see him, where we talk, it was a couple weeks. We had seen each other since then. I hadn't really talked to him or spoke to him. I was like, "You were right. I thought it was the Rembrandts that did that song, but it was the Gin Blossoms. You were correct." He was like, "Oh, you know, I can't believe you remember that. We had that random conversation at that bar with that open mic." And oh yeah, by the way, I got to do a few minutes of comedy in front of Tony and Adam Egget. And Adam said, "Good set." He didn't mean it. I think he just said it because it was a thing to say, because it wasn't a great set. There was a couple of jokes that hit, but it wasn't great. It wasn't good even. But anyway, he was like, "Yeah, with that bar with that open mic, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, dude." So he started giving me other music to listen to, and I was like, yeah, man, I love this shit, dude. Please send me, like, give me as much of this as you. And he's like, gave me a song to remember, and I put it in my playlist or whatever. We talked about it. Anyway, fast forward a couple more times of having conversations about music, and he was like, dude, I will 100% make a playlist for you. He's like, actually here, give me your number, and I'll text you all of this stuff right now. So fucking now, next thing I know, I'm giving Adam Eget my fucking telephone number so that he can send me a personal text message about music. What is my life at this point? Really? So that's a thing. And he's sending me messages about all this really awesome music. By the way, Orange Juice, the band that Edwin Collin was in, has this song called Rip It Up. It's fucking fire. And right when geek minds connect, dude, we're just two geeks. We're two nerds. And we realized that we had that one little thing in common that was outside of comedy and outside of all the normal stuff that you talk about. And then, which ironically enough is the same thing that happened with Tony a couple months ago. I kind of skimmed over that part of the story because there's just so much content in there. I don't want to spend an hour explaining the conversations that me and Tony have had that just were integral in my growth as a new resident of Austin, and just connecting on things outside of comedy. Like I can't stress that enough, is just talking about the shit that we have in common, because we're pretty much the same age. You know, we're a couple of years apart. We get in the same pop culture references, and we connected on some things that were very impressionable on us at an early age. And just I realized that it was important to have a connection with these folks outside of comedy. And dude, so anyway, now I'm just texting back and forth music stuff with Adam, and he's my friend now. And then same thing, like I'm just accepted. Like Red Band's introducing me to everybody, Tony is introducing me to everybody, and I book a music gig, which is to be my first originals gig in Austin, my first music gig in Austin. And I say, man, it would really mean a lot to me if you showed up to this. To a lot of people, I said this to like Tony and Red Band and everybody else, but it was coming. It was a couple weeks away. It was a ticketed event, and I had never played at this place. I didn't know what kind of situation it was going to be like, so that's not necessarily a important part of the story. But long story short, I asked Nick, the owner of the Vulcan, hey man, can I play a couple nights, a month here at the Vulcan after shit dies down on a Saturday or whatever? And he said, sure. So I talked to Cam, set it up. And then last Friday, he was like, how do you feel about playing here tomorrow night? And I said, fuck yeah, dude. Absolutely. I will 100% do that. So I got on the horn, so to speak, which is now Instagram, and me and everybody that I knew closely shared this shit out of the fact that I was going to be playing at the Vulcan. And this was a Saturday night, and the next day was going to be a rare Sunday Joe Rogan show. And this was this past weekend, actually. So I do the gig, and I invite a few people, and I didn't know who was going to show up. But right before the gig started, Tony popped in the back door. And man, it was like, those moments, have you ever had one where it's like, this is it. That thing that you've prepared for your entire life, when you realize, you ever seen Signs? You ever seen the movie Signs? I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan guy. In Signs, when they realize that the alien's weakness is water, and they look around the room and all the half glass, like all of the glasses of water with a sip taken out of them, are just sitting everywhere. All the weapons that they needed to defeat this beast in front of them, the monster in the movie, was there all along. And you didn't know why it was there, but you knew it was there. I had one of those moments as soon as I saw his face, and he said, "Are you still going up?" And I was like, "Yeah, just the show's gone a little long." So he's like, "Okay, good. You're still going up. Good." So I realized, okay, I've been waiting my whole life to play this gig. Like, this is the one. And I knew it. And I crushed. I fucking crushed. I mean, to tell you that I crushed. Do you understand? Like, it's not about bragging, but I've done this for more than 20 years, standing in front of people. And I did it professionally for like 15, like where I was getting paid to do it, and paid to do it exclusively for the better part of a decade. Like almost 9 years I did this thing professionally with no other job. It'd be weird if I wasn't good at it. But I crushed on this gig. For the first time, people who didn't know me, people who had never heard me before, got on the dance floor and lost their fucking minds for 2 hours. And Tony got to witness that. He got to watch me run a stage in a way that only I can. And call it a brag, I don't care. I've earned this. I have earned this. He got to watch that happen. And it's, thank you so much, Lewis. Thank you so much, Scooter. I appreciate that. It was fun. But man, he got to watch that happen. And I needed that win. Everybody came up to me and was like, "Dude, I didn't know. I did not know. Like, I didn't know that's who you were." And it was a great night. Fucking incredible. I came home. I floated all the way home. And I got the best sleep I've gotten in probably months. And got up the next day to go to work for the Joe Rogan and Company show. So there was a weirdo at the Joe Rogan show who came up and said a lot of weird things. I took some pictures of the guy and sent them off to the doesn't matter. Anyway, long story short, I ended up in a position to where I was going to see Joe as he arrived. So I was standing out back, and I saw Tony throw his hands up, and then I saw Joe, and I saw the exchange of Tony talking to Joe, gesturing towards me. And then all of a sudden, Joe Rogan just starts walking towards me, directly to me. And he walks straight over to me, and he's kind of on the phone. And he looks at me, and he throws his hand out, and he says, "Hey, man, I heard you killed in here last night." To me. He walked straight to me and said, "Hey, man, I heard you killed in here last night." And just like I've been saying 1,000 times to anybody who would ever say "good job" or "man, that was great," I said exactly what I always say. And I said, "Don't tell nobody." And he belly laughed and said, "Oh, I'm going to tell everybody." And I was like, "Oh, well, you can." He's like, "Are you coming in?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm working tonight." He's like, "Well, come on. So he called me back over to be part of the circle that was there. And as I walk up to the circle to where my best friend Tony Hinchcliffe and my best friend Adam Egett are standing there, and I walk up, and Adam Egett's like, Orange Juice, right? You know, the band that we talked about. And I was like, dude, I know, right? Like, I love that shit. Like, please send me as much of that. And he's like, really? Are you serious? I was like, yes, dude, I love that shit. Send me as much as you can. And as I'm talking to him, I look, and just Tony is watching me have this conversation with Adam Egett. And I was like, this guy right here, you know, I love this guy. And I just grab his neck, just being the, like, just, because these are my friends now, and I can, like, act like this guy now. And so we fucking just hugging him. And then all of a sudden, I realize that I'm just in a circle now. I'm in a circle with Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe, Adam Egett, and my best friend Hank. All of my my security, the security guys that I work with at the Vulcan, and man, I'm just standing there with the guards that are directly. Long story short, it doesn't matter. A car pulls up. Joe walks over to the car, and Alex Jones gets out of the fucking car, and I'm like, what is going on right now? And then over to the circle he walks, and then him and Joe, a warm embrace, and he goes around and shakes everybody's hand, and then he looks at me, and I throw my hand out. I was like, I am yonder. And then Tony steps in. Alex, this is my friend Yonder, and you know Hank. And, I know this guy. He grabs Hank, and just then I'm introduced to everybody, like in one fell swoop, in a 3-minute period. I saw Tony talk to me, talk to Rogan about me. Rogan walk over to me, shake my hand, tell me he heard I killed in the Vulcan the night before, then get to walk over to a circle that has my heroes standing in it, and they accept me as one of their own. They accept me as a member of that circle. And then I get introduced to Alex Jones. Now, I tell you all of this story to circle it back to the very beginning of this story. I told you guys earlier, I started a podcast. Swarmer, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, dude. The great and powerful Kim Congdon chat in here. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. And I'm pumped for me too. I really am, dude. And I really thank you so much. So this all started, the podcast thing all started with the Sunset Grill. The Sunset Grill was a conspiracy related podcast that was a result of me watching my first episode of the JRE. My first episode of the JRE that I ever watched was episode 911. And for those that don't know, that is the episode with Joe Rogan, Eddie Bravo, and Alex Jones. So I realized in that moment of standing in that circle with Joe, Tony, Adam, and Alex, that the reason that I'm standing, they are the reason that I'm standing there, and I'm standing there with them. Like, that's, when I first heard that episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, Alex was saying all this crazy shit, him and Eddie Bravo were going off about this crazy shit, and Joe was like, all right now, like, let's back up. Like, oh, you know, like, all of this shit was just like washing down on me emotionally at this time, and it was everything I could do. It was everything I could do not to break down into tears. Like I get moved emotionally by things like this that happen, and I'm an emotional guy. It's no secret. I bring myself to the verge of tears every day about something, and I think that's healthy. You know, you should feel something that powerful every day. And man, it was everything I could do to stop and break down crying and just give Tony Hinchcliffe like the longest hug, because he has introduced me to these people and introduced me in a way. And like, I do have to say this, Brian Redband first introduced me to Joe Rogan when I came for Kill Tony 500, and Joe was the guest on the Secret Show. He introduced me to Rogan on the roof, and I had the I'm the guy, and it wasn't the smoothest interaction. You know, we just kind of talked about VR chat for a second, and he was just, like I said, it wasn't the smoothest interaction. And he was preoccupied, you know, doing a lot of other shit. But like I'm forever grateful to Red Band for getting me the confidence that I needed to be able to stand there and like, oh yeah, well, I've met you before. I didn't want to say I've met you before, because you never want to say that to somebody. It's just, I would never have been able to like be here if it weren't for him accepting me into the, you know, VR crew, and just pretty much convincing me that moving out here would be a good idea. So I have to say, I've been talking about Tony a lot in the last few minutes, but it wouldn't be possible without Red Band. And I have to say that because it's the truth. But Red Band, like, he kind of incubated me to get me to the place where I could have an IRL relationship with all these other people. So that's worth noting. But man, Tony was standing there with me, and he's kept introducing me to people and saying just the coolest things about me to these people. And he has created a vision of me in their heads that is incredible. And I'm forever indebted to him for that. But I just wanted to fucking grab him and just, man, I thank you so much for this. And I sent him a message. I was like, thank you so much for this. I don't know what you did, but thank you for that. And it's now the kind of thing where I'm in a situation that I've always wanted to be in. And I've been through hell to get here. Literal fucking hell. Like, I was listening to Rogan the other day talk to Dave Smith about how all of his closest friends had fucked up childhoods and just come from a weird situation, and just like a checklist for my life, basically. And I see where I'm going now. Like, I kind of always knew that I would do something in the industry, but now it's a little clearer what that role might be. And I'm coming to a close in this, by the way, because I know I hadn't done a podcast in a while, and I knew I would probably go on for a bit here. But I'm bringing this to a close shortly, so just a heads up, we're coming to the end because we've reached present day. And thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate you, dude. You've been extremely supportive throughout this whole journey of mine, man, and it means a lot. It really does, dude. But just I'm so grateful for the position that I am in, and I have ensured everyone. I've told Tony. Tony says so many nice things to me, like I'm gonna lift you to the next level. I'm taking you all the way to the tippy top. Things like this, he says. And I'm so thankful for that and for him. And I finally know my role in all of this. I know now what I've wanted to know for a long time. And shit's about to get crazy. This year's about to be insane. I'm going to be doing more shows at the Vulcan. I'm going to be doing more shows elsewhere. I haven't done so much comedy over the last few weeks. I've been sort of focusing more on this new role that I've found myself in, so to speak. And I hear you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You can call me Ryan. I'll call you your new name now, Lewis. But yeah, thank you so much. Good morning off the coast of Ireland. Yeah, man. Just this situation that I've landed myself in. It's overwhelmingly incredible. And there's so many people to thank. It wouldn't have worked without my best friend, Mumford Davis, coming here first and paving the way, showing me that it could be done. And then it doesn't work if my uncle Brian Redband doesn't say, just get out here. Just get out here. We won't let you fail. Just get out here. And then for Tony saying, now that you're here, you don't need, what's up, Corky? Tony saying things like, now that you're here, you don't, and this might sound weird, but I got what he meant. You don't need to focus so much on the internet stuff that you were doing. You need to live your life a little bit and get out of your house and kind of break that little shell that you've got, because he could see it. He could see I had a shell, and he broke it and got in. Tony figured it out and helped me with my confidence a little bit. Thank you so much, Keith. And man, I took myself way out of my comfort zone, and I've started going out now. I'm riding by and I'm seeing his car and just stopping at the bar and being like, hey, dude, the fuck are you doing? I would never do that before. I would just be like, oh, he's in there right now, and just go home. But now I stop, He got a fucking badass car now, too. Got a new car the other day. I shouldn't say all these things. I want to see. I was saying so many things because I don't want to be the guy to spoil shit or to divulge information that I shouldn't divulge, and I'll catch myself in the middle of giving away too much, and because I don't want to fuck anything up. I don't want to fuck anything up for anybody that I'm talking about. And maybe some of the reason that I've been part of some of these conversations is because I don't talk about them publicly like this. Yeah, you got a new one, Corky. But man, just I keep having to convince myself that this is real. Keep having to convince myself this shit's real. And It is, right? It is. This is real, right? You guys see this happening, right? By the way, I weighed 299.7 today. 299.7 is under 300 pounds. I haven't weighed under 300 pounds since I quit drinking. And I did it without cocaine. In the land of cocaine. Let me tell y'all something about Austin. Austin likes its powder. And I did it. Oh, man, sorry, Corky. We still got to get you out to Austin, buddy. When you feel comfortable, man, you got to come out here. You got a place to stay. Just this is insane. It's all a part of the Matrix. You're right, Soupy. But this is insane that this is happening. But man, am I ever proud. Did anybody else smell burning toast? Oh, the great Nick BK. Man, I'm gonna leave you guys with this, because I think we have to have been going for an hour and a half, surely. Man, this was nice, and I don't want to overshare too much, because some of these things are best to just keep to myself and experience, just experience them and move on. But like certain things, I can't help but say, man, when just the most influential person in the world has heard that I killed on the Vulcan stage and is telling me about it, and like I'm listening to him talk to oh my God, Akash Singh, right? Did I get that name right? He was also, spoiler alert, talking to him about Culture Wall. And I was like, man, is there going to be an episode where he brings me up like that and plays some of my shit? Like, is that going to happen? It's a heavy thought. But like I said, I'm going to leave you guys with this. If this all sounds like a brag, it is. I'm bragging. I've done this. I've earned this. And I did this because I went to a place that makes me uncomfortable. I shed my contentment in where I was and stepped out of that comfort zone. And the universe, God, the creator, whatever you want to call that thing, rewarded me with this that's happening in my life. I told you that whole story just so that I could say that it happened because I took that chance. I went out on the limb. It might not work for everybody, but I tried. And like I would have lived my whole life. I was so close to spending the rest of my life in Murrells Inlet, in that apartment, just becoming more and more of a recluse with every day. I was probably 3 more months. If I lasted from October when I moved to January there, I wouldn't have left. I would have never left. And you're 100% right. And it is happening to those guys too, Scooter. Man, thank you so much for that. And Nick, for sure, you got to go to an uncomfortable place to get to a comfortable place. Don't call me Shirley Slumber. Call me Slumber. But yeah, sometimes you just got to go to that place that you're not sure about, and you'll be rewarded. You'll be rewarded. Anywho, so I love you guys, and I once again apologize. I hope that this long version of the show here was a good payback for being gone for as long as I have. I hope that it was. Thank you so much, Bill Dog. Thank you, Nick, Scott, Slormer, Corky, Soupy. Who else is here? Keith Vargas, Louis Lido, the great Call Me Ryan. I know I'm going to forget somebody. Juby, Chris Cornelius. Thank you guys, Gigi, for hanging out the whole time. Y'all are really, really cool to have all showed up for this. Hadn't been as consistent on this stuff, but I appreciate you guys showing up. And I'm gonna try to do as many of these as I can. I won't make any promises like I have before. I'm gonna do a lot more of these, but I would say that you could probably expect a few of these, hopefully on a more consistent basis, coming out soon, because everybody else around me is going to start doing them. So I feel like I have to toe the mark as well. But that being said, in a world full of shitty people, don't be one of those people. Be a good person. It's not that hard. And do something nice for somebody this week. Like, do something that you don't talk about. You don't put it on social media. You don't brag about it to anyone. Just let it be between you and that person. Just do something nice for them. Anyway, I love you guys. Be good people. Drink Screwball whiskey. Follow me online at Yonder Wizard, ZZERD everywhere, and be good people. Peace, bitches.